Welcome. Thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Scott Rosen. I'm the Managing Director and one of the advisory board members for SRCC Impera GmbH. We're an American and German-based capital consulting company specializing in presentation management and raising funds for startups. And for the past 20 years, I've worked on Wall Street and operated within the banking and finance sectors for some of the world's most prominent financial institutions. You can feel free to look me up on LinkedIn or Zing or whatever you've got. Over the past few years, we've begun hosting presentation skills management courses at many of the startup hubs around here and several of the international business schools throughout the EMEA region. And now, at their request and many others, we've endeavored to bring a new web series about presentation methods and soft skill development to help teach a broader audience. The series will take a candid look at what it takes to create and perform a solid and successful high-level presentation. Our goal is to give you a quick reference guide towards many of the issues and errors that people make when they're up on stage or in front of a larger audience. The idea behind these videos is very simple. We're going to give you a direct insight in what it takes to prepare your presentation and how to maintain focus. Most especially, we'll talk to you and go into in great detail how to deal with that nervousness that erupts when you're presenting up here. A lot can happen. Now, I don't care at what stage of your career you're in. The tips are simple. The videos are short and they're very intuitive. It's designed to enable you to recognize and counter mistakes as they happen. Very, very elegant. The bottom line, well, quite simply, we're going to make it so that you and your teams will perform better from the get-go. You'll be able to apply everything that you learn almost immediately. And it doesn't matter if you're a mid-level manager or you're just starting out in an MBA course. Whatever stage you're at, we can work together to help you perform better at your next engagement. So the short answer is this. All it takes is about 5 minutes to get better at presenting. So let's get started. So I thought I'd begin our first video with the most popular questions that we get asked by our MBA candidates and the entrepreneurs that we come across in the startup hubs. Anybody who's ever gone into a board meeting or a project meeting, or if you're going to a family office, an institution, whatever your pleasure, it's the number one question that we get asked, and that is, how do you deal with that nervousness that arises when you're up there? And what we found is that most people don't spend enough time preparing mentally for the fact that when they're up there, they are indeed going to be nervous. It happens to everybody, no matter what stage of your career, how experienced you are. At some point, something always goes wrong with the presentation. You forget a fact, your mouth goes dry, speed talking. I mean, there's a lot of symptoms that manifest in a lot of ways, and obviously it affects everybody differently. But that's the number one thing. First tip right off the bat is that you have to understand and accept the fact that you're going to be nervous when you're up there. At some way, shape, or form, it will happen to you. Because the number one fear that people have is actually having to speak in public. Many people don't realize that, and the science and the studies are there. What's funny is that you know what number two is? The second fear, what everybody has? Death. Yeah, death is number two. So that means, according to most people, when they go to a funeral, they'll feel better in the casket than having to give the eulogy. And that's absolutely insane. You're nervous, it's okay. Everybody is. It never goes away. You know, you can use that energy for something useful, like getting your feet, moving across a stage or resetting your eye contact. And it happens to the best of us. You know, some of the best presenters out there, like Steve Jobs, for example, he was notorious. The earliest stage of his career had to will one foot in front of the other just to get from one side of the stage to the next. Warren Buffett's another one. He hates even having to speak on a conference call. And to think about that, a titan of industry and insurance, and actually a pretty good ice cream salesman, you can look it up. It's for him to be afraid, or Steve Jobs to have that kind of trouble, it's just just makes me feel better, which may in turn should make you feel better. My personal favorite though has got to be David Bowie. Bowie was a phenomenal performer, and to know that in the early stage of his career and throughout his career, he always had a bit of an issue going in front of larger audiences and singing. It was, as the leader, everybody looks to you, but you come to terms with it, and that's the first step. Leads you to number two, which is how do you maintain the focus and control and get rid of that nervousness? And that is recognizing that you're in a position of power when you're up there. You're the captain of the ship. Now, it might not be your ship. You might not be the CEO, but when you're presenting and the eyes are on you, you control all the tips and the points that the audience hears, the images that are displayed, all eyes are on you. And while quite daunting, it's a lot like driving a car or being in a car where you got 8 people, 10 people. I guess it's a van at that point, isn't it? But I digress. Case in point, if you're the driver of the car, you can control if you go left or right and not have to worry about somebody else causing an accident. Exactly. So it's more of a position of power, and that recognition enables you to kind of take steps to get yourself moving and elaborate. The last thing I'd like to mention on that is many people try to perfect every aspect of their presentation, from creation to performance. It can be quite daunting. It's very stressful. And what's nice is you only need to really worry about 3 things: what the audience sees, what they hear, and how you sound. Now, what they see is the deck behind you. When you're using Prezi or PowerPoint or beautiful AI or even a flip chart, it's the graphics and the images that the audience has access to that you're leading their attention to that make the difference. That's what they see. What they hear are the words that you choose to say. So if you're careful and you speak slowly, you can choose your words very carefully and become very articulate. And the third part is what they is what the audience, kind of what you portray to them, which is how you sound. This is your confidence level. It's very important that you maintain this, because nobody's going to believe that there's any conviction behind your words if you don't say them that way. What's cool is that you only have to walk away with 2 out of 3. Now, I know there's a lot of science behind this, and the math is different depending on the study you look at. For simplicity's sake, we'll just say that each one of those aspects is worth 1/3. And that means that you can walk away with technically a successful presentation, 66% of the vote, if you have 2 out of 3. For example, you can be a great statesman, be confident and look good, or have a good presentation, but not choose the right words, and still come away okay. I mean, if you think I'm making that up, I'll cite JFK. John F. Kennedy, early 1960s Berlin Wall speech. It was the beginning of the Cold War. Kennedy obviously looked very presidential, which, the audience was quite taken with. He was, it was Camelot, for crying out loud. But he also was very confident. He was quite the orator. His word choice, however, in that particular speech wasn't the greatest. What he had said was "Ich bin ein Berliner," which meant I'm a donut. Yeah, there's the leader of the free world during the beginning of the Cold War telling everyone that he's a pastry. And nobody cared because, heck, it was Kennedy. So 2 out of 3, that's what you need. So yes, there you go. Everything's summed up. You're going to be nervous. You have to accept that. You have to remember that you're in control so that you can start doling that nervous energy out into something a bit more useful. And 2 out of 3. Aside from that, the biggest thing I can tell you right now, just at the beginning of our series, is that when you're up here, you will make mistakes. Be prepared for it. It goes without saying. That elusive, perfect presentation doesn't happen very often. I can count on probably 2 hands how many times in 20 years we've absolutely nailed it 100% without missing eye contact or getting all of our points across, whatever the case might be. But once you know that you're going to make mistakes, that's the big thing. I think one of the greatest things that people can do to really improve their presentation skills, ability, and their performance is to actually take 21 minutes and go watch Dr. Amy Cuddy's TED Talk on power posing and what it takes to put our best foot forward when we need to present ourselves. For those of you who don't know, she's actually a Harvard psychologist, a behavioral psychologist who studied this and actually put the science behind it. And while her TED Talk does last about 20 minutes, as I said, it only takes 2 minutes. The results, it takes 2 minutes to lock yourself into a power pose before you make your presentation to your teams, or you go into a family office, or even before your interview. So I'll put the link in the description below, but I highly recommend that you take 20 minutes of your time and then 2 minutes of your day every day to give yourself the power pose that you need to get the right chemicals going in your body so that you feel better and that your body actually reacts and exudes that confidence and starts to reduce that nervousness. Hey, Scott again. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed what you saw or you found it useful, please feel free to give us a like. And don't forget to click that subscribe button. I think there's a little bell icon you can click too so that we can notify you whenever we release some new content. We're going to be releasing a lot of videos over the next coming weeks and coming months. And they're going to be short and sweet, but we'll do our best to address everything. If you've got something that you have a specific idea on or something you'd like a little bit of help with, please feel free to let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And you can feel free to check us out in our website or our profiles on LinkedIn and Zing. Links are in the description as well. Have a great day, and good luck with your next presentation, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.